The basketball world just witnessed something nobody saw coming. Caitlin Clark didn't just reject Geno Auriemma's desperate plea to save his crumbling empire, she orchestrated the most calculated takedown in sports history. And what she revealed about his secret meetings with WNBA executives is sending shockwaves through every front office in the league. But here's the part that's going to blow your mind. The real reason she turned down his offer has nothing to do with money and everything to do with a betrayal that happened behind closed doors at UConn 3 years ago. Before we expose what really went down, make sure you hit that subscribe button because what you're about to hear changes everything you thought you knew about women's basketball's biggest rivalry. Let's start with what just leaked from inside UConn's athletic department. Sources confirmed that Geno didn't just offer Clark a coaching position. He offered her something that would have made her the highest-paid assistant coach in college basketball history. We're talking about a 5-year deal worth $30 million, complete with her own private jet access and a guarantee that she'd take over the program when he retires in 2028. The package included naming rights to UConn's practice facility, her own signature basketball camp on campus, and get this, a percentage of all merchandise sales featuring her name. When you add up all the endorsements and future opportunities, the total value exceeded $75 million. But Clark's response was brutal. She didn't just say no, she leaked the entire offer to ESPN with one condition. They couldn't publish it until after she announced her new venture that would destroy everything Geno built. What happened next sent the entire basketball establishment into panic mode. Clark revealed she's been secretly working with a group of investors, including Serena Williams and LeBron James, to launch a rival women's basketball league that would pay players 10 times what the WNBA currently offers. The league, called the Women's Premier Basketball Association, already has commitments from 12 cities and a broadcasting deal with Amazon Prime worth $2 billion over 10 years. But here's the kicker. They've been recruiting current WNBA players for the past 6 months, and over 40% have already signed letters of intent to jump ship when the league launches in 2026. The list includes some names that would shock you, but legal agreements prevent us from revealing them just yet. What we can tell you is that 3 of them are current All-Stars, and 1 of them plays for the team Geno's own daughter coaches. But that wasn't even the most savage part. Documents obtained from a Connecticut state filing show that Clark's investment group tried to buy UConn's women's basketball program outright. That's right. She literally attempted to purchase Geno's entire legacy for $200 million. The offer included keeping him on as a consultant with 0 actual power, while she installed her own coaching staff. When UConn's board of trustees found out about the offer, an emergency meeting was called where Geno reportedly lost his composure completely, screaming that Clark was trying to erase 40 years of history. One board member who was present said Geno actually threw a chair across the room and had to be physically restrained by security. The footage from that meeting exists, and sources say it's only a matter of time before it leaks. The backstory that nobody's talking about makes this even more incredible. 3 years ago, when Clark was still at Iowa, Geno orchestrated a campaign to keep her out of the Olympic team consideration. Internal emails that surfaced last month show he contacted USA basketball officials 73 times, arguing that Clark's style of play would disrupt team chemistry. He even created a 20-page presentation titled The Clark Problem that he distributed to other coaches, claiming her shooting range was actually bad for the sport because it encouraged young players to take bad shots. One slide in that presentation, which has now gone viral, actually used analytics to argue that Clark's logo threes were statistically inferior to traditional half-court sets, completely ignoring that she shot them at a 47% clip. The presentation backfired spectacularly when Dawn Staley got a copy and immediately called Geno out in a coaches meeting, asking him if he was threatened by a 21-year-old. What really set this war in motion was something that happened during last year's Final Four. Clark was doing a meet and greet with fans when Geno approached her with cameras rolling, thinking he was going to get a friendly photo op. Instead, Clark looked him dead in the eye and said, "I know what you did." She then turned and walked away, leaving Geno standing there stunned, while hundreds of fans recorded the whole thing. The video has over 50 million views. But what people don't know is what she was referring to. Turns out, Geno had been secretly funding negative social media campaigns against Clark through third-party marketing firms. We're talking about bot farms, paid influencers, and even fake injury reports designed to diminish her impact. The total amount spent? over $3 million of UConn booster money that was supposed to go toward recruiting. The financial implications are staggering. Since Clark entered the WNBA, the Indiana Fever's valuation has increased by 400%. They've sold more jerseys in the past year than the previous decade combined. Meanwhile, UConn's women's basketball program is hemorrhaging money. Season ticket sales are down 60%. Their last home game against a ranked opponent drew their smallest crowd in 15 years. Major sponsors are pulling out, with Nike reportedly considering ending their partnership 3 years early. The program that once printed money for the university is now operating at a $12 million annual loss. But here's what's really crushing Geno. 3 of his former players have publicly sided with Clark. Diana Taurasi went on a podcast last week and said Geno's ego has gotten too big for the sport. Sue Bird posted a cryptic Instagram story that simply said, "Some coaches build players up, others tear them down." And Maya Moore, who's been silent on basketball matters for years, came out of nowhere with a tweet supporting Clark's new league. But wait, it gets even more insane. Like and subscribe if you're enjoying this, because what comes next is absolutely wild. Last week, Clark announced she's funding a documentary about the toxic culture in women's college basketball, specifically focusing on coaches who abuse their power. The documentary, being produced by the same team behind The Last Dance, already has interviews with 47 former UConn players. Preliminary footage that was screened for select media members allegedly shows players describing a culture of fear, manipulation, and psychological warfare. One former All-American breaks down crying while describing how Geno would pit players against each other, creating an environment where eating disorders and anxiety were rampant. Another player reveals that Geno kept detailed files on every player's personal life, including their relationships and family problems, which he would use as leverage during recruiting and to maintain control. The response from current players has been devastating for Geno. Paige Bueckers, who was supposed to be his crown jewel, has gone completely radio silent on social media since the documentary was announced. She's missed 3 optional team activities and was spotted at dinner with Clark in Indianapolis last Tuesday. When reporters asked her about it, she simply said, "No comment," and walked away. But her body language said everything. Sources close to the program say she's considering sitting out the rest of the season to preserve her draft stock. 2 other starters are reportedly in the transfer portal, but haven't announced it publicly yet. The team that was supposed to compete for a national championship is falling apart in real time. Here's something that just broke yesterday and hasn't been reported anywhere else. Clark's camp has obtained recordings of Geno from a private coach's clinic, where he explicitly stated that women's basketball needs to protect itself from players who think they're bigger than the game. He went on to say that Clark's popularity was dangerous for the sport's integrity, and that coaches needed to unite to put her in her place. The recording, which is 43 minutes long, also includes Geno suggesting that referees should call games differently when Clark plays, specifically mentioning that her theatrical style needed to be penalized more harshly. When other coaches pushed back, Geno reportedly said, "Either you're with us or you're against the future of women's basketball." The recording has been turned over to the NCAA's Ethics Committee, and an investigation is already underway. The latest development is the most shocking yet. Clark just announced that she's purchasing the Connecticut Sun, with plans to relocate them to Indianapolis, where they'll play in a new arena directly across from where the Fever play. She's essentially creating a basketball empire in Indiana, while Geno watches his Connecticut dynasty crumble. The purchase price hasn't been disclosed, but sources estimate it's north of $150 million. The move would leave Connecticut without a professional women's basketball team for the first time in 25 years, and the symbolism isn't lost on anyone. She's literally taking professional basketball out of Geno's backyard. What makes this even more savage is the timing. Clark made the announcement exactly 1 hour before UConn's senior night, completely overshadowing what should have been a celebration of Geno's current players. The local media that was supposed to cover the ceremony instead rushed to cover Clark's press conference, which she held via satellite from Indianapolis. She wore a vintage UConn shirt with the logo crossed out in red marker, a move so petty and perfect that even her critics had to respect it. During the press conference, she was asked directly about Geno, and her response was ice cold, "I don't think about him at all." The ripple effects are already being felt across women's basketball. 3 major recruits who were committed to UConn have asked for releases from their letters of intent. The #1 player in the 2026 class, who Geno has been recruiting since she was in 8th grade, just announced she's committing to South Carolina instead. She posted on social media that she wants to play for a program that celebrates the future instead of clinging to the past. Another 5-star recruit was even more direct, saying she doesn't want to play for a coach who tried to sabotage the growth of women's basketball. But here's the part that nobody saw coming. Internal documents from the WNBA offices show that Clark has been working with the league's Players Association to restructure how rookies are marketed and compensated. Her proposal, which has already been approved in principle, would give players ownership stakes in their own merchandising rights and a percentage of ticket sales for games where they're featured attractions. The plan would essentially make every player a business partner with their team rather than just an employee. Conservative estimates suggest this could increase player salaries by 300% within 5 years. And guess who's been the most vocal opponent of this plan? Geno Auriemma, who despite having no official role in the WNBA, has been lobbying behind the scenes to kill it. The irony is absolutely delicious. Geno spent decades building what he thought was an untouchable empire, only to watch a 23-year-old from Iowa dismantle it piece by piece. While he was giving speeches about tradition and the right way to play, Clark was revolutionizing the sport. While he was trying to protect his legacy, she was creating a new one that made his look obsolete. And while he was offering her money to join him, she was making more money by destroying him than he could ever afford to pay. Sources inside UConn's administration have confirmed that emergency meetings have been held to discuss Geno's future. The board of trustees is reportedly split, with half wanting to buy out his contract immediately and the other half afraid of the backlash from older alumni. But the financial reality is becoming impossible to ignore. The program is projected to lose $30 million over the next 3 years if current trends continue. Meanwhile, Clark's various ventures are projected to generate over $500 million in revenue during the same period. One trustee who requested anonymity said, "We're watching the Titanic sink in slow motion, and the captain refuses to acknowledge we've hit an iceberg." The final nail in the coffin came yesterday when Clark announced her newest partnership. She's teaming up with Sophie Cunningham and several other WNBA stars to create a players-only coaching academy that will compete directly with traditional college programs. High school players can skip college entirely, get paid $50,000 per year, receive professional coaching, and still maintain their eligibility for the WNBA draft. The academy already has commitments from 20 of the top 50 high school players in the country. In other words, she's not just beating Geno at his own game, she's making his game obsolete. What's your take on this incredible story? Drop a comment below and let us know if you think Geno can survive this, or if Clark has officially ended his reign. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell because this story is far from over. And you won't want to miss what happens next.